Jennifer Bates, Director of Global Accounts, Helms Briscoe. Jennifer has 30 years of experience in the meeting planning industry, from working as a meeting planner to selling a destination at CVB. Everybody start clapping your hands right now, to the left and to the back of the house and to the right. Start clapping your hands and give it up for Miss Jennifer Bates.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. My colleague, Barbara, cannot be here, unfortunately, but this session we're going to talk about sourcing strategies, areas to negotiate, given the current landscape. So we're looking forward to sharing what we have here. Currently, we have a lot of unknowns. Whenever we source a meeting, we're doing it in the context of the current landscape, most of which is out of our control. As you can see here, you've got gas prices, labor costs, food prices, causing inflation. We've got immigration policies that are leaving us unknown about labor in hotels or food production. All these things out of our control, but we still have to source within this landscape. So we want to look at some strategies to help do this within this current landscape. So what is that landscape we're dealing with? Right now, revenue per available room, RevPAR, it's high. Not only is it high, but it's the highest it's ever been in the history of tracking RevPAR. 2024 was the highest year it's ever been, but it's rising at a rate that's lower than in past years. So 2022, 2023, it was rising at 3.9, 4.1%. As of February, it had only risen 1.4% since December. So it's starting to steady out. Rates are starting to steady out. Rates are softening because demand is softening. Business travel is down 18 to 19% from 2019, but it's plateaued. We don't expect that business travel is going to increase much above that. That is where the new business travel looks post-pandemic. Leisure travel also softened in the back end of 2024. Meanwhile, demand for upper upscale and luxury travel properties, that remains really strong, which is why hotels are investing in these types of properties. While lower end hotel category rates are dropping. So RevPAR is high, demand is high, but business travel has plateaued and leisure travel is softening. So what's driving up demand and rate? It's group. Group is king. It's driving up rates, driving up occupancy. Hotels want your group business, and we are filling up those segments for them. We're giving them lots of meetings. Every major market is compressed. Given the high group demand, hotel sales teams have been unwilling or unable to hold space and dates first option for very long, if at all. And usually you're competing with multiple groups. So I just had a hotel ask me if my group would like to go fourth option. I've never had fourth option before. Rates are changing quickly. What they quoted you in January may not be what they're offering by the time you're ready to go to contract in, say, March. Hotel ownership is putting a lot of pressure to maximize revenue, and the revenue managers are controlling this. The sales managers don't have much say in this. Food, gas, labor costs, all of these are high and they're unknowns, and they're an enormous factor, both for hotels and for planners. We don't know how laws and federal funding are going to affect this as well, but the hotels have to pass these higher operating costs on to the buyer. So this is driving up rates. It's driving up service charges. I just saw 30% last week. And hotels are adding a lot of additional charges and fees to cover costs. I've seen egg charges. I've seen labor charges. We've all seen these things as we go through this. So rooms to space ratio, this is another issue. Guest rooms and meeting space are a commodity that expires every day. We can't put it back on the shelf the next day. So it's a hotel's job to sell the guest rooms and meeting space every day. And in order to do so, they try to layer in groups that will maximize their space and their calendar. We'll talk more about the post-pandemic challenges of this in a minute, but know that hotels are holding firm to rooms and space ratios and day patterns in order to sell every space, every day, and maximize revenue for owners. We're also seeing that regulations are affecting occupancy demand. For example, New York and other cities, they have new regulations on short-term rentals, and that's causing compression, which is driving rate in those markets. Next landscape, we've got On the planner side, you're seeing, this is what you're seeing, you know what you're seeing. Shorter booking windows, you're feeling the effects of these soaring costs as they get passed on to you, which gives you less buying power and tighter budgets. We're seeing that more companies and groups are really listening to their attendees about traveling to meetings. And this is changing things like meeting patterns or travel time to meet their needs, regardless of hotels' preferences to meet rooms to space ratios. So people don't want to travel for weekends, on weekends for work, and groups are having to rethink and reshift their patterns. It's posing a lot of problems for planners and for hotels, given the demand and lack of meeting space, which we'll talk about next. Because of this, we're seeing more mandates on destinations from companies and organizations. Corporations and some associations are prioritizing top tier, easier to get to destinations, air hubs with large airports, for example, to save on airfare costs and travel time for their employees and their members. We're seeing some companies avoiding certain states or cities because of politics. We're seeing some companies move destinations to be in closer proximity to attendees to reduce travel time. All of this means that demand is high, rates are high, and these particular cities are filling very quickly. We're seeing meetings merge and combining goals. And we're seeing that as these companies and organizations listen to their attendees, more and more meetings are moving midweek. Going back to the example of being a commodity, it's having a profound impact on hotels selling and maximizing their rooms to space. And we're seeing that play out in rates and our rooms to space ratios. There are a lot of attendance unknowns as well, and this can go either way. Some of you are dealing with renegotiating contracts that are, pre-pandemic and trying to right-size meetings. Others are finding that you don't have enough space and enough rooms, and so you're having to renegotiate contracts or find overflow hotels. So that's all just taking more time on your end. And you really honestly don't have time for hotels to have slow response time or to make mistakes. There's just a lack of time. Sourcing landscape construction and renovation. So this is a longer term problem. There's the construction or lack thereof is what I like to say. New construction is still way behind demand, and most of what's being built is limited service. So not meeting space hotels. It helps us a little bit with rate, which is great, but it doesn't give us more space to actually meet the demand. For developers on their side, there's less money available for financing new construction. There's higher interest rates, although those are dropping, and there's higher construction costs. And it's very expensive to build a hotel that's meeting focus. Ballrooms, full service restaurants, all of these are really expensive, much more expensive than building a limited service property. When we do look at where meeting hotels are being built, large group hotels with significant space, what has been built in the past year and is opening in 2025, most of them are this upper scale group we kind of talked about earlier. It's the Signia Hilton, Atlanta, Conrad Orlando, Waldorf Astoria, New York, Ritz-Carlton Paradise Valley, the Cooper in Charleston examples. It's great to have new meeting industry inventory, but for a lot of groups, the price points are just out of price range. Meanwhile, we're seeing a lot of dual branded properties being built in major markets, which gives us an opportunity to book meeting space, but have different guest room price points for attendees, which can be helpful. It used to be that you'd have to book multiple properties in order to get multiple price points for your attendees for large groups. But now more and more, you can do that within just one property, still have premier meeting space, but be able to have multiple price points for your guests. Also seeing that there's some new builds being scrapped because of climate change, and something that developers are having to take into consideration. I just saw that the Accor CEO has canceled a construction project in Greece because of fears and concerns around water shortages and wildfire risk. So something else that developers have to keep in mind. What that means is that for most brands, the future of growth means consolidation. And we're seeing that as hotel companies are gobbling up different hotel groups. it also is why we're seeing a lot of remodeling, because companies have purchased properties and now they're transforming them, which helps us because it means they are making existing product become worth purchasing. So that's great. We also have noticed that there's been a lot of remodeling outside of actual construction. There's been a lot of remodeling. You probably see this in different destinations, but there are some locations where there's been so much remodel that if a hotel has not done remodeling, it's standing out like a sore thumb. And you're seeing that play out in rates too. You may get proposals back and they're all at one price point, except for one outlier that's really low. And it often means they haven't remodeled and can't compete at the same rate. That can be great if you have a group that doesn't mind being in the shiny new penny, and can give you some opportunity, but it does give a striking distinction between the two properties. Convention centers are another area. I know a lot of you book large citywides or use convention centers. Few facts: of the 250 largest recurring events, almost 90% of them are held in the top 20% of cities in top major markets. So it's really just a handful of cities. And if you're booking those types of meetings, you know you're hopping between just a few destinations. Half of these conventions take place over just 4 peak months, May and June, and September and October. So that exacerbates compression in those destinations. There's tight competition for convention centers and these citywides. But the other fact is that convention centers lost money last year and business is down compared to 2019. So, what does that mean for cities as they're considering? Well, cities are still banking that large citywides are good for their economy, and they're still making the investments to keep winning business. Several cities are embarking on convention center remodels or expansions, and in some cases are closed completely. Austin, Cincinnati, closed. This is causing additional compression issues. Some of the business from these cities may shift to nearby cities and can affect availability in those destinations. For example, in the case of Texas, we have Austin closed. Dallas is building a major 2.5 million square foot renovation expansion next to Kay Bailey. And then Fort Worth is also doing reno expansion. So you've got these 3 major cities in Texas all under construction. I guess we're looking at San Antonio and Houston, So it pushes business to other destinations and causes compression in other ways. It also means that, especially if a convention center is closed like Austin, it means there's softer hotel occupancy in that city. So there may be some opportunities there to look for some better rates. I listed some of the recent renovations and expansions to give you a sense of everybody is building, remodeling, and expanding. So there's lots of opportunity and lots of new product coming on. Destinations, we've talked a little bit about this. Every market's compressed. Event and music tours, this has become something new that we're having to watch. Who wasn't shut out of a destination this past year because of the Eras Tour, for example? So it's something we have to take into consideration as we're looking at destinations. Don't try to book Austin during South by Southwest, for example. But I did want to point out that there are a few cities that have had the most amount of new hotel room openings in 2024 and 2025. New York, Nashville, San Diego, Dallas, Orange County, and Phoenix. All of them have opened. Those are the top cities with the most number of new hotel rooms being open. So things to consider. Those cities certainly can absorb it, but it does mean they may be a little softer for 2026, and something to keep in mind. What we're seeing as far as service and staffing, service quality continues to be an issue. Some hotels lack enough staff, or the staff that they have are very new and green and learning the ropes. And there's been a lot of short-term business these days. Companies are booking a lot of short-term business. And because of that, the service team is constantly busy trying to handle the groups that are coming in 2 weeks and unable to get ahead of the long-term meetings. Corporations are booking a lot of meetings less than 3 months out. And that has a profound impact on staffing because it means that sales managers are getting a lot of quick turn RFPs and are unable to get back to those long-term requests quickly. They're just unable to get ahead. In the middle of this, contracted meetings are trying to right size, as we mentioned. Some groups are still actualizing contracts that were written pre-pandemic or rebooked during the pandemic, and attendance is shifting. It's hard to know where things are going to land. And so planners are having to add more meeting space, add more guest rooms, or reduce and change. And that's all taking more time from the sales team and the event CSM team to be able to execute that. The redo time is taking a significant amount of time. So teams are just stretched thin at the hotels. And that costs, there's a cost to that. They can't, if they're going to add more staff to be able to handle the short-term effect, that is going to be seen on your labor end. Service charges continue to increase in order to help offset the cost of the increased labor. In fact, I just received a 30% service charge from the hotel. That's high. And we're seeing, as I mentioned, lots and lots of additional new fees. Fees to flip rooms, penalties if menus aren't selected by a certain date. I talked about the egg fee. All of these fees are added in. Contracts, we've got the contracting process is taking forever these days. A combination of lack of staff, lack of empowerment, ownership oversight. A lot more hotels are requiring attorney review for their contracts, so that's taking a long time. Lack of autonomy on the hotel's part. Meanwhile, contract terms are becoming less favorable for groups. You really have to know what to watch for, because even one word in the contract can change the entire context and become a risk and cost for you. Staffing, as I mentioned, it's still an issue. Make service expectations clear in your contracts. Rebook, if hotels are able to add this at all, it's usually at a much lower percentage than they were able to do pre-pandemic, and usually is coming with pretty strict timelines. Hotels and convention centers are adding fees in every way, so just watch for those in your contracts. And more we're seeing that hotels are adding contingency deposits to cover costs that may incur. So what we've got here is kind of a perfect storm of cost, demand, lack of construction, lack of time, and everybody wants to be in the same place at the same time. So what does that mean for sourcing? Some strategies that you can look at when you're sourcing. Overall, flexibility, the more flexible you can be, the better. We used to joke, rate, space, and dates, pick two. Well, now it's kind of pick one if you're lucky. We recommend to be as flexible as you can be with all three. Review your rooms to space ratios and trim when you can. Be willing to shift patterns if you can. Many hotels prefer to book the Sunday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Saturday business, again, to maximize their revenue and fill the entire week. Be as flexible as you can. Don't just offer one set of dates, because you'll probably get a lot of turndowns these days. Look at second or even third tier cities to find more availability. In some case, airfare won't necessarily be any higher. You may have to add an extra leg of your trip, which I know people don't want, want less time, but it still can be cost effective. And these destinations, they've been renovating and expanding just like the big cities too. So they've got some great product out there, and CVBs are really trying to woo meetings into their destinations. So they've got some great promotions to bring you in. They're ready to host. Ways to get around the rooms to space ratio issues. Look for hotels that are upside down in meeting space. They have a lot of meeting space and not many rooms to fill. That's one way to do it. Another idea is to match a space hog meeting that isn't necessarily a citywide, but you can match it with a citywide convention. The citywide takes on the convention center and some of the guest rooms, but they may not be using the hotel's meeting space. You can drop into that meeting space and have a smaller room block. So that's some ways to get around the rooms to space ratio issues. Some other things to help when you're sourcing, contract during pre-opening. You can get some great rates that way, but it also can give you access to a destination you've been trying to get into but haven't been able to, either because there's not availability or because there's convention rotations that keep you kind of locked out of that city. Seasonal demand, holidays, all this with group business up overall. What used to be shoulder or low seasons just aren't anymore. Cities are filling those weekends and those weeks, those shoulder weeks. So be sure to keep in mind each destination's high season and large events. As I mentioned, don't try, to book on the Boston Marathon during marathon week, but it's also compressing either side. So something to keep in mind. When possible, do multi-year deals, multi-meeting, multi-brands. And then, why use a third party for sourcing? Given the landscape and the challenges we discussed, using a strong third party can be really beneficial. Third parties are experts in the areas of sourcing. You're the expert in the area of planning, and it can be a great marriage. Can save you time, can save you money, can help you strategize, mitigate risks. Third parties read contracts daily, can help problem solve during the sourcing and the planning, and can make you look really good. So you're the experts in the planning space. They're the experts in the sourcing side. Together, it's a great combination. So thank you very much. It's been great to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We really appreciate you coming on. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I was going to ask you, you were kind of saying, look at off dates, look at, different things. Is there like a hidden month we should be looking towards to kind of see, this is a good time? No, there's no hidden month.
It depends on destination. I mean, of course, the obvious, right? Like August in Phoenix, it's hot. No one wants to be there. Probably going to get deals. DC in August, also a great window. It's really by market. Avoiding their high season is probably key. Don't try for Miami in March and hope that you're going to get $200 a night. You won't.
Exactly. Well, we appreciate you so much. We appreciate your time. We have just had such a blast here today with everybody joining contracting and hotels. It's so important for all of us. Like she said, if you don't understand it, definitely find an expert or somebody who can help you through that process, because we know it can be a lot.